All right, what's up, everybody? Hello, how's everybody doing? Good day. Happy Wednesday to y'all. Let's jam a little bit more, see if we can do a little bit more till we get this, what shall I say, this podcast off and running. I like to come on with my little theme music. Hey, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the TIMple Talk. Talking in the Temple podcast. I'm gonna jump right into what I'm gonna talk about. Like, share, subscribe, and yeah, that's all I'm gonna ask y'all to do right now. When it's time to start getting y'all to support it, I'll put those Cash App QR codes and I'll put those Zelle QR codes up and everything. But in the meantime, between time, I want to jump right off into what I'm going to do today. For some reason, I don't know what's going on with all this. But let me jump into this right quick. Is free speech free? That's what I want to know. Is free speech free? Let's ask Google. All right. Is free speech free? No. Freedom of speech is not completely free, as it has reasonable limitations, such as restrictions on inciting violence, defamation, or speech on private property. While the U.S. First Amendment prevents the government from censoring speech, it does not protect all forms of expression or apply to private entities like companies or employers. The context and form of the speech also play a role in its protection and restrictions on time, place, and manner. All those are often allowed if they are content neutral. Last thing right quick, limitations on free speech, incitement of violence, okay? Speech that's intended to incite, obviously, imminent lawless actions. Defamation, this is a little dynamic here. False statements that harm someone's reputation, libel or slander can lead to legal consequences. Fighting words, words that are likely to provoke an immediate violent reaction aren't protected by free speech. Y'all listen to this. Speech in private settings. The First Amendment applies to government actions, not to private employers, businesses, or private individuals who can regulate speech on their platforms or property. False oaths. Lying under oath is a serious offense and is not protected by free speech principles. All right, enough of that whole free speech thing. I just wanted to open that up because everybody's talking about Charlie Kirk. We hear Pam Bundy going on yesterday. We're going to come after you if you're saying something or whatever it was. It may have been the day before yesterday. She gets on there and she gets talking about what she's going to do. She's going to come after the people, and if there's any hate speech on any side of the aisle. And then, of course, her side of the aisle got pissed off about what she said. So now she had to dial it back and run it back and roll it back. Dumb. The cost of free speech is expensive. The cost of free speech is expensive. In other words, it seems like to me, even though the speech is free, you still have to give some valuation to the vocality that you're going to put to your voice. Charlie Kirk, okay, we all know Charlie Kirk, and I know that's people's friends. I know that, I think it's tragic. I already talked about it. I actually talked about it probably more than I should have Sunday. just to kind of make it real clear. But I knew I was going to do my podcast today, so I wanted to come on here and just kind of get a couple things straight, make it real clear on my stance on this whole speech thing. So I'm looking here, and as I'm perusing online, I come across this exchange between Charlie Kirk and a young black man, Texas A&M. Quite honestly, the young brother wasn't ready for Charlie. Charlie came on, did his thing, and pretty much ate him up. I'm talking about just straight up debate. But there were some things in that conversation that bothered me, of course, and I don't know Charlie Kirk. I really didn't even follow Charlie Kirk. Matter of fact, when I even saw the original news break, I didn't even really pay attention to him because the name was not that familiar to me regarding who he was. Then, of course, I remember references to him some time ago, and especially with the whole release, the Epstein files and everything like that. But that conversation, and whether you, and I was having a conversation the other day, and I said, listen, y'all, you understand that out here in these social media streets, I really wish that my pastoral position didn't prevent me from being the marketing genius that I really could be by saying certain things that would be incendiary or inflammatory or even derogatory, because I could get my clicks up. I could monetize all my views because people will run to foolishness, people will run to folly, and people will run to falsehoods. Y'all get that? Foolishness, folly, and falsehoods. That will get you a fortune in America. I'll say it again. Foolishness, folly, and falsehoods. All that'll get you a fortune in America. Charlie Kirk, listen, whether he believed that black women didn't have the brain power to process elevated academics or elevated thought processes. I mean, dude, there's too much that's against that thought process factually that says you can't really believe that. When we have all of these, and I said it on Sunday, and I'll say it again, you've got all of these African-American women, Michelle Obama, Harvard grad, Ketanji Brown, Harvard grad, Sheila Jackson Lee, Yale grad. You got, I mean, there's so many. Okay. So you can't believe that all black women don't have the brain power to process high levels of analytics. But you do have the right to say it. You can't believe that if a black pilot is on the plane, that you're in more danger than if a white pilot's on the plane. You can't believe that because of DEI suggesting that a person can be less qualified and still wind up finding themselves in a position that demands that the proficiency of the position's operation is directly connected to the qualification of the person sitting in that position. You can't really believe that, but you can say it. I listened to Charlie Kirk and this little fellow from Texas A&M, and this is the part that got me. I don't agree with Charlie Kirk. I don't know Charlie Kirk. I didn't know Charlie Kirk. And I know that there are people who knew and know Charlie Kirk, you know, and their loved ones. And we are praying for his family, just like we're praying for the families of those who were killed in Minnesota, just like we're praying for the families of everybody else who is horrifically gunned down in these American streets, that don't get flags flown at half-mast, that don't get state funerals, etc. But I was listening to this conversation, and it was brutal. Listening to the conversation, I'm like, oh my gosh, this little fella keeps going back to culture, 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 talking about the inequities and wanting to. And of course, Charlie Kirk's platform was prove me wrong, y'all. If you have a platform titled Prove Me Wrong, anybody that steps up to the mic, you probably need to be aware of the fact that if his platform says prove me wrong, he has done some type of study, and certainly by all means, he has become extremely proficient in communicating whatever his talking points are in the debate. This little fellow was all over the place. I mean, he's talking about, you know, DEI. He's wanting to go at Charlie about DEI. Charlie's coming back with DEI, which I don't agree with that mess. That he's talking about, you can have 300 points less on your test scores and still get into certain institutions just because of the skin color. But they kept going back and forth, and Charlie kept saying some stuff. And even though it was pissing me off, I mean, it was, when I tell you it was pissing me off, it was pissing me off. But God, dog, the boy was telling the truth. It was pissing me off, but the boy was telling me, he was telling the truth. He was telling the truth. Because he's asking the young man about how did these other, even though our ancestors were brought here enslaved, the whole Middle Passage and everything that happens in the African American culture, we know that slavery took place hundreds of years ago. We know that that we had all types of inequalities and everything like that. But as a people, what we for some reason fail to realize and remember is that through all of that, the African American people were still able to not only survive, but figured out how to thrive. He started asking this young brother, how is it that other ethnic groups, Jews, who they were almost completely wiped out, how did they bounce back? Asians, how are they so fiscally strong? Hispanics, who's come over here, I mean, and just done well. I'm just gonna, in the interest of time, let me just, basically what he's saying is that you have these groups that have come over to America, the same America, who come to America, and they seem to be doing all right. No, everything is not perfect. No, everything is not pristine, but they seem to be doing all right. The young man keeps referring and reverting back to the slavery period. I get it. That is our history. That is the truth of our history. Yesterday, even in the midst of segregation, when we were separated and segregated, we still not only as a people figured out how to survive, but also how to thrive. Black Wall Street, Madam C.J. Walker. I could start running. I mean, just so many different. Our doctors, Charles Drew and George Carver, and Lord have mercy, just so many. Charlie Kirk said something. It pissed me off, but he was telling the truth. He said, "Why don't you people start holding yourselves accountable?" I'm going to pause there. He said, "Why don't you people, hey, he might have said your people, I don't know. But why don't your people hold yourselves accountable? What happened to the family dynamic? fathers in the homes, the breakdown. He says, you all are the wealthiest people in America. Y'all, it pissed me off. Ooh, it pissed me off. But according to spending, he was telling the truth. African Americans are the greatest spenders. United States, yeah, African Americans are the greatest spenders on the planet. Now, how can you be the largest consumer group on the planet and always talking about you broke? I understand. It's uncomfortable. I wanted to just share these few things with you all. I just kind of pulled up some research. I started looking at some stuff, and I want to share this with y'all right quick because everybody's going crazy over this Charlie Kirk thing, and I get it. And no disrespect to his family, no disrespect to his friends. It was terrible, But y'all, I mean, we might be looking at the wrong thing. We might actually have our eyes. This might be one of those dupes. And I'm gonna tell you about another dupe here in just a minute. But this might be one of those dupes, and we might want to concentrate on more significant matters. My mother, who is 83, she'll be 84 on her birthday, for years, never really understood what she meant until I got older, and especially in these more recent times. She's made it very clear on many occasions that desegregation was probably one of the worst things that happened to our people as a culture. And I thought about that. Watch this. Because if you look at most other ethnic groups, they are thriving because they have segregated themselves. Ooh. They stay in their communities. They build communities. They stay in their communities, and they circulate all their money in their communities. They didn't have a validation problem. They didn't have a historical reference to being enslaved and treated like animals. And finally, we gets to be with the white folks, so we's gonna go be with the white folks. We's gonna move out to the suburbs, leave all the urban transit. We's gonna get out here, and cause we's been black and we's been beaten, and we wants the white man to respect us. Just hearing that just kind of pissed me off, because I think we're not looking at the great dupe. Mom said the worst thing that she feels that ever happened in her lifetime to African Americans was desegregation. I did some research, y'all. And what I wanted to look at a period of I think I went back to maybe 1960. Let me just give y'all some facts. And then I want you can take it and do with it whatever you want to do with it. And it's not even anything for you to agree or disagree with. I said facts. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm going to give you facts. Okay. One of the worst things that's happened to us as African American people is that the black and white wealth gap widened. When we talk about economic inequality and wealth gap, y'all, it's obviously going to get wider. If you work down at the cotton gin and Billy works at GM, but you get to live in the same neighborhood as Billy, the housing market is going to remain the same. It's going to be more burdensome on you with your cotton gin salary than it is for Billy on his GM salary. I don't think y'all are catching what I'm saying. Because we ain't black. We coming from across the tracks. I'm sick of being across the tracks. Should have stayed your ass on them on that side of the tracks. That's what I think. That's my opinion. But here's the fact: economic inequality and the wealth gap, it's widened. With black people holding fractions of what white net households net worth is. Now, this comparison didn't really start until we came across them tracks. The median black household, that the wealth there is still less than 15%. Think about this. It's less than 15% of white households. I want y'all to hear this. Barriers to generational wealth, especially the transfer, those barriers still remain. People don't understand trust and trusts and other financial products that are out there. It's largely due to housing, lending, and wage disparities. Y'all, here's the thing. Okay, you want to be desegregated? And this is part of what pisses me off. You want to be desegregated? Come on over here. We're going to raise the hell out that bar. And we may not even raise the hell out that bar. We're just not going to lower the bar. Because since you want to come from over there and you want to come over here, then you got to play by the rules that are over here. And due to the fact that the law says that we've got to let y'all come over here, we're not just going to play by the rules that have been in existence. We're going to make sure that the rules that we have in place create even a greater hardship for your behind, since you wanted to come from over there, over here, because you were actually doing better as a people over there. You had your own doctors, you had your own grocery stores, you had your own food, and as you were living just fine. And watch what I mean when I say you were living just fine. I'm saying that we were a community. We communed together. We had neighbors in the hood. Lord have mercy. Fact number one, you can agree or disagree. Since desegregation, economic inequality and the wealth gap has increased. I'm talking about for a people. Not only that, home ownership, land ownership, Lord have mercy, housing stability, all of that decline since desegregation. Family stability, marriage rates decline. I'm a sad statistic of that, where I participated in it. But I have to believe that before all this desegregation, I have to believe that there were communities that told people what the values of this community is, what the values of our family are. Shit, man, we just didn't. We get out here with all these people, and you know, it's all kind of stuff going on out here that we never participated in. I'll keep going. Educational disparities. This is a big one. I still remember, even in my school days, I had some teachers, Miss Tommy Johnson, Miss Elois Johnson, what's Miss Nancy's? Nancy Wilson, Coach Otis Ragsdale, Coach Curtis Brown. I still remember some of my teachers Man, when I would get in trouble at school or when I was not doing what I need to do, especially amongst those African American teachers, man, they would be on the phone calling my mama because they understood the necessity of education. Here's the thing, even though access has improved, quality gaps still persist. Yes, we can go to the Ivy League schools, but I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm sad I didn't go to a HBCU. I'm real sad I didn't go to a HBCU. And even though many of our schools are underfunded, we didn't have those issues when we had our own communities because we didn't rely on them, quote unquote. And really, the racial achievement, that whole race relations, that whole gap, yeah, it's narrowed very slightly. All right, y'all got me? Facts. I'm out of here. Economic inequality, wealth gap. Y'all got that? Don't have to like it, but it's true. Home ownership, housing stability, true. Family stability, marriage rates. I'm talking about since desegregation. My 83-year-old mother, who lived back in that day, is able to tell me very clearly and concisely, and many of her contemporaries have told me the same thing, that one of the worst things that happened to us is that we decided we wanted to pursue desegregation and we should have kept our tails segregated. I almost want to do a go back to segregation movement. Because if you heard me from the beginning and you don't just take this snippet and run with it, if you heard me from the beginning, I said that I believe that the success of every other ethnic group that is here, every other ethnic group, every immigrant group, European immigrants, because see, white people, I'm not confused. This ain't your country either. You came here from somewhere else too. It became our country when we became a country, but this is originally not our country. All right. So let me keep going right quick. All right. Um, Educational disparities, right? I talked about that. And when we talk about the cost of free speech, this is what I'm talking about as it relates to understanding when we're talking about this cost of free speech. And when we're talking about all of these things that are spoken about, you have to see that even free speech costs. And sometimes what it costs is our own pride. Sometimes what it costs is us having to re-engineer our thought process. Sometimes what it may cost is us having to cross the aisle and say, damn, you know, that I don't like what you said, but it's the truth. Since desegregation, got higher education debt burdens. But the problem is, guess what? Because we's desegregated now, we can attend these high-tail colleges, but the debt loads are a whole lot heavier. Even the degrees that have been attained from these, what we call it, PWIs, predominantly white institutions, it hadn't translated into the same economic mobility. It hadn't impacted debt to income ratio. So if you get a doctorate degree from um, Michigan, or you get a doctorate degree from Howard, It's a doctorate degree. And people think because you're paying more, you're getting better. I'll keep going. What's happened since we brought our tails from across that track? Incarceration and criminal justice disparities. Here's that duping I was talking about, that okey doke. Oh, you want to be desegregated? Come on over here. We about to put some, we're going to let you, come on. Well, boy, the stuff we about to put on y'all and call it legal, the stuff we about to put on y'all and let it ride, and the disparities that we're about to show you all, you're going to wish you took your back over on the other side. Yeah. It says, coming from across the tracks, mass incarceration disproportionately have affected African Americans. Let me say this. We fought to be free, only to be enslaved in another way. And I won't even say fought to be free. We fought for equality, only to discover that the scales would become even more unbalanced. Black men are still in prison, I think 4 or 5 times, or maybe 5 or 6 times more than white men. That's today. And this is what the young man was trying to talk about when he was talking to Charlie Kirk. But the reality, watch this, y'all. When Charlie Kirk comes back and says something like this, pissed me off. But it was the truth. He asked the young man, how do you go to jail? The young man says, by doing something wrong. Charlie Kirk says, case closed. In case you joined me late, I'm talking about the fact that at some point, our people, if you expect things to get better for our people are going to have to be our own accountability. The reason you don't hear from these other ethnic communities a lot of the stuff that you hear from our communities is because they don't let you know. They handling their business over there. Chinatown, what goes down in Chinatown stays in Chinatown. Koreatown, Jewtown, Asia Town, Tijuana Town, Mexico Town, whatever you want. Whatever's happening over there, they are taking care of it over there. That's how we were. We were the first ones that originated thriving after surviving. It's got me itching, y'all, and we let it go. We were the first ones. Our ancestors were brought over here, enslaved, forced into labor, free labor, desecrated, degraded, beaten and whipped and molested and sodomized and killed and hanged, and you still survived and figured out a way to thrive, and now your ass want to go over here and be with these people? Nothing's wrong with those people over there. The question I have is, what's wrong with us over here? Our health outcomes, life expectancy, that gap persists. even though it's narrowed slightly. Our community safety and violence is kind of like what I was saying, man. I mean, I don't think I could have been in the 50s and 60s because I don't think I probably could have been in the times before that because I wouldn't have been interested in going across the tracks anyway. I'm cool with staying over here with my people. That's what I would have been like. Our political and civic influence decline. That community safety and violence decline. Our mental health and our social cohesion decline. I'm done. I'm out. I'm through. I was just listening to that conversation with Charlie Kirk and the young fellow. I heard the young fellow say what we've been programmed to say. It's their fault. It's the system's fault. The system is broken. No, fool, the system is actually working. The system is doing exactly what the system was designed to do. If you want to be desegregated, come on and be desegregated. Everybody else seems to be cool with being in their communities, quote unquote. Jews, they hang tight. Asians, they hang tight. Mexicans, they hang tight. Koreans, they hang tight. Polacks, they hang tight. Irish, they hang tight. And yet we're the only ones hung up.